So, we both think that someone's taking advantage of him, right?
Kuguri nodded, similar worry to which Chibayama felt mirroring on his face. He was glad he wasn't the only one coming to the conclusion that one or more of Inoka's co-workers were using his kind heart to get out of work, piling it on him instead when he was supposed to rest. Infuriating was the word that came to mind the most, the discovery shattering his illusions about people working in damn kindergartens.
Opportunistic snakes! And he's a dumbass for not catching up on it.
He's just kind. That's not a bad thing.
Kind to his detriment.
He sighed, unable to stay mad at Inoka for longer than a single moment. It was his kind heart that made him fall for Inoka in the first place after all, and he was sure it was the same for Kuguri. However, the less he could understand how could anyone abuse that, especially when they knew it could seriously hurt or even kill him. They needed to do something, and fast, before their worst fear came true.
Okay, well, I suppose it's up to us to think of some way to stop that.
But what? He's not going to believe us if we accuse his coworkers.
True, he can be blind like that.
He took a moment to think about their options, frustration growing within him every passing second. For a moment, he really wished he was more like Kenma when he thought of their battle plans in tournaments. Surely his senpai would come up with some way to stop this whole thing quite fast. But unfortunately, he could only rely on his brain right now. They had to gather clues before accusing anyone close to Inoka. Kuguri was absolutely correct in that. However, given their paths never crossed, that was almost impossible to do. Unless...
maybe we could make them show their colors. If they lose it in front of him after he refuses to stay late, even that naive head of his will make that correction.
But he's not going to refuse if they ask. He's too kind to refuse.
And we have to think of something he'll be even more inclined to do. You know, like going out with you.
The shock on Kuguri's face was absolutely adorable. Or would be if it didn't come from his deeply rooted insecurity.
Out? Yeah, like on a date. That's a pretty solid reason to get home from work on time.
It was perhaps somewhat cruel to be using Kuguri like this again. But to be honest, it was the best way to get Inoka's smitten ass to do anything. They all knew that. Then, wouldn't it be more effective if you asked him? He wouldn't miss a date with you, ever. Or maybe not all of them. The way Kuguri's shoulders slumped when he said that, so quiet and unsure, constricted Shibayama's chest with pain like no other. He wasn't naive to believe they repaired all the damage done to their boyfriend's heart anymore, not after the last few months. But seeing his beloved so confused that they wanted to spend time with him, constantly putting himself to the sidelines, it hurt. Burned, actually. He closed the short distance between them and cupped his cheeks, hardly holding back from smothering Kuguri with kisses and hugs.
He wouldn't miss one with you either, especially now. You'll see, you two will have a great time and it's going to show him the truth too. It's a win-win, no?
The doubts were still clearly visible in Kuguri's eyes, but there was a bright twinkle of hope, one Shibayama wanted to keep forever.
Alright, I'll do my best. Nah, just relax and enjoy yourself, okay? It's going to be fine, you'll see.
Unsurprisingly, it took another hour before they heard the front door open, the dragged footsteps telling of how tired Inoka was again. It made Shibama clench his hands on the pot he was cleaning, the memory of Inoka snapping still clear in his mind. He trusted Inoka would be more careful now, especially with Kuguri, but apparently there were moments he couldn't be sure of anything.
It's fine, now's got this.
He called a greeting when Inoka walked past the kitchen, round the corner of his eyes seeing Kuguri straighten with a jolt.
Evening, I'll come home. Difficult day?
Inoka sighed and slumped next to Kuguri on the couch. Worried, Shibama peeked over the island to check on them. But to his relief, he found Inoka making grabby hands towards Kuguri and letting out a relieved breath when Kuguri went along.
It's fine, he's got it.
Still, he listened while he did the dishes, just in case things went south and he needed to step in.
Then how about you take a break? There's a new restaurant nearby. Sells udon and tempura, and the reviews are really good. I thought that maybe we could try it together. Maybe tomorrow for dinner? Tomorrow? It's Friday. You sure they'll have a free space table for dinner time? I have practice tomorrow evening. It would be just you two.
Inoka paused for a beat, tilting his head as if that would help him understand. But fortunately, before Kuguri could panic and back out, a wide grin split Inoka's face.
Okay, then let's do that. Really? Yeah, we haven't been on a date for so long, just the two of us. And whose fault is it?
He chased that thought away, instead focused on the small smile tugging in the corners of Kuguri's mouth, the most beautiful hint of happiness he knew. Now they just had to hope the bastards using Inoka's kindness would have the audacity to ask him again tomorrow. Minutes ticked by. The sun went down ages ago, and yet the only sounds in their living room came from Shibayama doing the dishes and Kuguri nervously tapping his foot. But to be fair, Shibayama was also getting rather restless with the passing time. It was way after Inoka would come home normally, and the reservation time the two set up for their dinner date was getting mercilessly close. And yet Inoka was nowhere to be seen. Not in person, no call, no message, nothing. He tried to inconspicuously text him to see where he was, not wanting to alert Kuguri to his actions, but he didn't even get the red status.
What are you doing, you idiot?
He looked out of the kitchen, his heart aching when he saw Kuguri sitting slumped by the table, fidgeting with his fingers and constantly glancing towards the door.
Poor baby.
He wanted to give Inoka the grace of bad traffic or something, or maybe that he was shopping for a gift for the date and forgot time. But the longer they waited, the clearer it was that Inoka wasn't coming home on time that night either. Kuguri seemed to realize the same, despite still sitting like a lonely puppy waiting for his owner to come home, the sadness in his eyes shattering Shibayama's heart to pieces. Especially since he was the one who came with what he then supposed was a foolproof idea. An idea that apparently only managed to get Kuguri's hopes high, just to shatter them. The urge to get up and take Kuguri out himself so he didn't have to think about this grew stronger within him. But unfortunately, he doubted anything he did would erase the sinking disappointment. Sighing, he put down the last plate and headed into the living area, gently squeezing Kuguri's shoulder.
Maybe you should go change.
Kugure paused, glancing down at the carefully chosen shirt and pants, his fist tightening on the shirt's hem.
Maybe he's just running late.
Yeah, I bet.
Go change, okay?
Let's not camp those pants for no reason. Still, Kugure shook his head and stayed where he was, his eyes once again straying to the main door.
I can iron them again. No. Please. Just a bit longer.
Shibayama stayed silent. Kugure's willingness to give second, third, at this point probably fourth chance already was heartbreaking. But he didn't have the heart to protest. And so he just nodded and sat next to him by the table, keeping their fingers entwined as they waited in silence for some time more. 5 minutes, 10, then 20. And the flat stayed silent until Kugure let out a shaky sigh.
He's really not coming home, is he?
Shibama squeezed his hand, torn between pity and anger.
Doesn't seem like it. I'm sorry. I can't believe he stood you up. Is he for real? Maybe he just forgot when he agreed to stay late again.
He tried to appear strong, that much was obvious, but the look in his eyes told a completely different story. One that made Shibama's chest ache, and yet so annoyed at the same time.
One doesn't just forget he has a date planned for the evening. Not if they are a good partner at least. Watch, he's going to come home all apologetic and promising you that you can reschedule.
As if on cue, key rattled in the lock, and Shibama straightened in the chair, his jaw clenched.
Speaking of the devil.
Just as he expected, Inoka soon rushed into the living room, panting and looking scattered before his eyes looked at Kugure.
I'm so sorry. I had so much to do, it completely slipped my mind I needed to go. I'm sorry. So, you stayed late again, didn't you? Well, yeah, there's so much to do lately. I had to get it done.
He squatted down in front of Kugure, at least having the decency to look guilty.
I'm sorry, love, really. I'll make it up to you, I promise. How about on the weekend? Maybe there's... How about no?
Holding back with everything he had to appear calm, he got up and gently tapped on Kugure's shoulder.
Go change, okay? But... go. It's fine.
Kugure looked torn, his eyes darting between Inoka's confused face and him, but eventually got up with a quiet apology and headed into the bedroom. Shibama waited a few moments, just long enough to hear the door close, and Inoka jumped when his palms slammed into the table.
What are you doing? I tried to apologize, and you wouldn't have to apologize if you actually focused on what matters. How dare you make him look forward to something and then screw him over? For what? Because you are too dumb to say no?
Inoka got up as well, crossing his arms over his chest.
You are still on this? I'm just doing what a good person would. To the detriment of your own boyfriend. What a hero, huh? Oh, please. You act like you've not made him cry before.
Shibama flinched before more annoyance overpowered his guilt.
Yeah, I did. And I'm trying to make it right since then. But my mistake doesn't negate you being an ass, does it? I was trying to apologize. You should have been here. You promised. Why do your coworkers, who, by the way, just use you so they don't have to work as much instead of helping you, matter more to you than your boyfriend's feelings?
Inoka opened his mouth to possibly retort, but then stopped, his brow furrowing in confusion.
How did you get to that? Seriously? It's obvious! And if you weren't a soft-hearted idiot, you would see they are using you. They wouldn't do that. Of course they would! They are clearly doing it! They know you are supposed to rest and yet they still keep asking you to stay late! How do you not realize it when you keep coming home half dead every night?
The flat sank into silence, only interrupted by Shibama's heavy breaths. His throat itched from raising his voice so much, but in a way, it felt good to let his frustration out. Inoka seemed taken aback, his face telling of a quite intense mental struggle before he shook his head.
You don't know them. I don't have to. I see the results, what it's doing to you, what they are doing to you.
He clenched his fists, only stopping by Inoka's side on the way to the bedroom.
Just so I know would never stood up someone he loves. So get your shit together.
With that, he left Inoka in the living room alone, hoping his words at least started some suspicion in Inoka's head, and that he could think of something to make Kugure feel a little better.